Hello, colleagues. Hello, friends. Hello, PSC members. I hope you have a strong cup of coffee. Those of you who are with us are either here all night long, or you're just getting up and getting ready for your Thursday workday. Thanks for being here with us. I'm James Davis. I'm the chapter chair at Brooklyn College and a member of the Executive Council. We're going to transition to a final segment with the PSC officers. I hope you can see and hear me. If you watched the last couple of segments, then you saw an extraordinary demonstration of solidarity from our colleagues at the CUNY Graduate Center, struggling with some really challenging conditions this summer. They spoke about the necessity for shared governance and communication across titles. And then we also heard from a number of elected officials. Many elected officials speak about their love for CUNY, and what's happened over the past few months is that the PSC has been able to convert those expressions of love into commitments of support to specific pieces of legislation. And so if you're listening this morning and you didn't hear yesterday about the New Deal for CUNY, I hope that you'll check in and support the New Deal for CUNY legislation. You heard Inez Barron talking about strengthening state legislators to take on the governor, the necessity to hire more faculty of color. And you heard Senator Andrew Gennardis speak about CUNY as a world-class gem of an institution. And that's the kind of legislative support that we're going to need to expand. So let me turn the floor over to my esteemed colleagues, and I will sign off. Good morning. Happy Thursday to everyone who's heading off to their workday.
Thank you, James. Thank you so much. Thanks for bringing us from 6 to 7:30 and for the huge amount of work that you did, James, to make this happen, to make this possible. It's really great to see everyone again this morning. Good morning, PSC members, for the second time. It's pretty great to say that every morning. I could get used to that. And it's lovely to be able to greet you, especially because, as James said, some of you are just going in now for your first class of the semester. People are revving up for the semester in all kinds of different ways, and I hope we can be part of that. Congratulations to everyone who stayed up all night with us, and what an incredible night. Especially congratulations to George Sanchez, our overnight host, and to Aaliyah Tyner-Mullings, who originally conceived of the 24-hour marathon project, and when many of us thought it was crazy. So I'm going to thank my colleagues right here in a minute, but I want to thank Aaliyah for having the vision to think of that. I want to thank Penny Lewis for her work on it. George Sanchez worked literally night and day and brought us so much creativity and voice and energy all through the night. James Davis did a huge job of pulling together what could have seemed like a lot of very different things and made it all one. Andrea Vasquez, who's been taking such an important lead in a lot of our events and works and building, and the entire committee. This took a lot of people to put together. And of course, I want to thank every contributor, every person who recorded their op-ed, who wrote those op-eds, got them published, put themselves out there, everybody who made a tape, all the groups, the anti-racist groups, the chapter groups, the HEO and CLT groups, the campus-based groups, every group that came together, every student who let us show their work, every single person who contributed. And I do feel that we can really say a new political form was born. And I want to talk more about that. But first, I want to greet and say good morning to my colleagues. It's really wonderful to see here Andrea Vasquez, Sharon Persinger, and Nivedita Majumdar. So let's say good morning to them, and then we'll talk a little bit to bring us to the end of our 24 hours. We only have, I think, about 18 minutes left, and we're going to make it strong. We're going to make it strong, sisters. Over to you. Good morning, everyone. Andrea, over to you. Good morning.
Good morning, sisters. We'll try. I don't know about you, but I woke up at 4 in the morning, all revved up. I listened to some poetry and then went back to sleep and ended up having a dream I was chatting away with Nivedita about last night. So I'm I'm coming back down to earth, and I look forward to a good conversation this morning. Hi, everybody.
Sharon, oops, just took a sip of coffee. Good morning.
Good morning. I'll speak more about this if I have time later, but I want right now to remind everybody to fill out the census. 2020census.gov. If you haven't filled out the census, please fill out the census. So much depends upon it. I will tell you later.
All right. Hang on for that. Cliffhanger from Sharon. Nivedita, good morning. Oops, Nivedita, you're on mute. There you go. Unmute yourself.
Yes, I have. Sorry, too much time on the computer, but what an uplifting time. And thank you for those of you who are watching to be, on your devices bright and early. It says so much about the kind of union involvement we have. So I will reflect a little bit later, but just wanted to say hello and good morning.
Okay, it's fantastic to see everyone, and also everyone there who's been with us or just joining us. Maybe yesterday you had 3 new classes to teach and you couldn't get on, and so you're just starting today. So, and I know we'll make available on our website, and I'm not quite sure how the best way to do it will be, but clips and selections, there's so much richness here. So I'll start us off by saying I want to hear from the other folks on the screen, and then I hope we can continue the dialogue among us as members of the union. But I want to reflect a little bit on what we've heard. And, I said yesterday morning, starting off a bit hopefully, that this was a possibly new political form born out of this horrible moment, and that we could think of it as an asynchronous demonstration. And what I didn't realize then was how powerful and rich it would be to see so many members with so much thought and hope and energy connecting to the union and speaking from their knowledge and their experience and their work, your work, through the union's presentation, and seeing how we can come together as a union and expand massively what we think we can do. For me, that was the big lesson, that we, even though we often think big at the PSC, and by other unions and politicians, a lot of other people, we are frequently accused of thinking too big. What I feel after watching all of you is that we've got to think bigger. There's so much more we can do. I heard people talking about the devastation of CUNY that could follow, and if we don't stop it, will follow from this kind of disaster capitalism moment, where we could move to massively online courses, big courses, degrading further of the academic workforce and of the education for our students, and how this moment has been used to, can be used to decimate, especially departments of ethnic studies, women's studies. I can see a task force working specifically on the on the Save CUNY part of this program. I heard incredible voices. I think we need to rethink and re-see the union in terms of anti-racist work and how we can expand that concept. We need to get behind the visionary legislation that we heard about from several people yesterday. And there's so much more. And we need to have that conversation about where we go from here with one-on-one, member-to-member contact. And there's so I hope people will still take the opportunity this morning. There's still a chance to join our brigade of folks who do member-to-member calls, which is really the heart of union work. You get to talk to these fabulous people we've seen today. So join us for that. And I'll just say one other thing, that there were several clips that I saw yesterday that just filled me with grief and rage. And there are a few that I am going to send to every member of the state legislature, the mayor, the governor, every member of the CUNY administration. Let them be forced to hear from you. Let them hear from Andres Serpa. Let them hear from non-teaching adjuncts who have lost their jobs. Let them hear the quality of commitment that people have to CUNY and the total lack of commitment that CUNY has shown to them. So we are going to use this to expand our political range also. So much more, but it was a powerful, politically powerful forum, far exceeding my expectations. Maybe I didn't have enough imagination, but it exceeded my expectations for how powerful and beautiful it could be. So let's hear a little bit from, we'll start with Nivedita about your thinking back and forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. And thank you again, PSC, for being with us at this early hour as we conclude 24 hours of actions and meetings. It's an understatement to say that it has been a heart-wrenching spring and summer. We've seen illnesses and deaths around us. There was nothing much we could have done about that. But where it got really bad is what we could have controlled. We saw the ineptitude of states, the cruelty of corporations, and the cynicism of universities. Here at CUNY, we saw the same pattern that we are seeing the country over and, in fact, the world over. Instead of stepping up in response to this tremendous crisis, CUNY failed miserably. We saw the unconscionable firing of some 3,000 adjuncts, the loss of health insurance of hundreds, and this with funding that CUNY received from the state and which came with a mandate that people should be kept on payroll. We've seen no clear plans on reopening, even as people are anxious about the conditions that they'll be confronted with once they are back at work. We are seeing the increase in class sizes and other cuts, which are going to eviscerate an university that has been systematically decimated, as Barbara said, by underfunding over decades. And one thing that we've always maintained is the reason CUNY is punished is because of who we serve. We as a union, of course, we fight for our members, but we have always been informed by the fact that we matter because of who we serve, and we get punished because of who we serve. Our students are overwhelmingly, more than 70% are students of color, and more than 50% they have household incomes of less than $30,000 a year. That's why the fight we fight is the fight for our students and our communities. And yesterday it was heartening to see exactly that being highlighted. We saw the expanse and the depth of union involvement yesterday among our members. And it reminded us of something that we've always known, that what happens to us is not simply a result of what is being handed to us by the powers, but what we do in fighting and shaping our reality. And yesterday was a beautiful example of that. We learned of hundreds of health and safety watchdogs across CUNY, of budget workshops training members to challenge the administration's narrative and priorities on budget, of the tremendous legislative work for New Deal for CUNY. Again, as we've heard from Barbara, from Mike, from Andrea, this is precisely the time when they're beating us down to stand up and say, we deserve much more than has ever been given to us, and we will fight for that. We will not go down fighting defensively. And we heard yesterday of the work with our students, our brave students, and with our coalition partners, of the amazing work of organizing and of the organizing and actions that we did over the summer, and so much more. We will continue our work of bargaining for better conditions and of building power on campuses. We fight not just for our professional lives, but the lives and futures of our amazing and brave students. They deserve better, and we deserve better. Starting now, we'll be reaching out to every member, every one of you, to listen and to organize moving forward. We will win this fight. Thank you again. Stay well and stay strong.
That's great. When we fight, we win. Okay, over to Sharon.
I could repeat some of the same thank yous and summary of the day, but I have an ask of you. Please, if you haven't completed the census, fill out the census. It's easy. It's got about 10 questions. Go to 2020census.gov and fill it out. I think we all know some of how important the census is. We know that it is used in determining apportionment of congressional representatives among the states, and then even within the states among various parts of the state. New York City is often undercounted. New York State tends to be undercounted. New York State is on the edge of losing a representative in Congress. And so if we have a large number of people who don't complete the census, that will happen. So please fill out the census, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your students. That's probably even more important. If you can construct a classroom project that reminds them to fill out the census and gets one more person, one more family, one more household to complete the census, that will be a plus. Census data is used in allocating federal money to various regions of the country. There are hundreds of programs, and it amounts to $1.5 trillion that gets allocated based on census data. That means money for K through 12 education, for Title I programs in particular, for special ed programs, for school lunches, school breakfasts. Very important to us in higher education for Pell Grants in New York City. That means it determines how much money is available for the federal support for housing and for public transit. It's important for money. It's important for representation in Congress. Please fill out the census, 2020census.gov. By the way, there are still census jobs. You can go to 2020census.gov/jobs, or just do a search for census jobs. There are jobs that will continue through September and even afterwards doing cleanup. Please fill out the census. It's very important. 2020census.gov.
All right, Sharon, thank you. And now we go over to Andrea Vasquez, our first Vice President. Andrea.
Hi, everyone. I also won't review all of the thanks and how incredible it was. I guess what was so amazing is that we thought it was incredible that hundreds of people participated in the creation and the ideas behind this event. And believe me, there were 3 times as many ideas that came in as actually came to fruition, because of the short time. So, I mean, after yesterday, though, it really makes me realize the potential and who our members are. So many people that we heard from and who are such strong leaders and thinkers in their own right, and have come into the PSC and have always been active in the PSC, but who we haven't seen. We saw many faces and heard from people. Even I think of David Hatchett, who I know for years, who has spoken so eloquently yesterday. But there were so many new people. One person, Michelle Gasparo, another adjunct who lost her job, who. I just hear these voices and compared her treatment to the way she treats a roach in her apartment. There were so many things. I want to look through it all, and I think one of the things we should think about is how to use that video. Barbara mentioned one thing, but I think we need to look, and we need to realize, I think, that we have so much more power out there, with all of these members. I had 2 main thoughts about what I came away with. One was the incredible, consistent support that everyone expressed for our students, and the prioritizing and everyone's thinking about our students. And the other was the connection to the Black Lives Movement and being an anti-racist union. And, it just was there. It was present in so many ways. And I especially think about the group, the ARC group, I think Brooklyn College, and I watched on and off that panel. But we definitely, we've talked in the union about starting an anti-racism committee and a standing committee. And I think we realize, I think we have so many people we can reach out to. And this is just a greater pool of people who we need to work with. The expressions of our members, it made me realize the importance again of where we go and the coalition work. And all of those members who participated, we all have connections. We all have connections to other communities, other organizations. And I think that's what we have to build on as we build this new deal for CUNY, because it really needs to be a New York effort. And we someone in joking mentioned we should do a listening tour, and they were talking about the officers. I think we all need to think about doing a listening tour. And yesterday was like a listening tour. It was like going into so many campuses and so many departments and so many disciplines and so many constituents, and really hearing very intimately and dramatically and powerfully and thoughtfully what's happening there. And so I would like to think about, as Barbara said, using this medium differently and continuing to use it. We'll be stuck on Zoom. We can think of many ways. Doesn't have to be 24 hours, but many ways that we can create forums to hear from our members and to have the conversations that we know we so desperately need to have right now. So thanks, everybody. And thank you, my sisters.
Thank you, sisters. So great to work with you. I'm not going to use all our time to say thank you, but I hope that you can feel my appreciation and how sustained I think we all are mutually by having this powerful sisterhood in leadership. We've had wonderful colleagues in PSC leadership all through the time that I've been here, and each incarnation is pretty wonderful. And this one has its own deep contentments and flavor and strength. So thank you, thank you. Also earlier this morning, we heard James Davis. Those who were up at 6 got to hear James Davis giving a beautiful thank you to the PSC staff. And James named many of the staff, so I won't do that again, but I will just say to the PSC staff, if you were listening at 6, that's great. And if you're listening now, yes, really beautiful job. This has meant a lot of 24 hours on call for our staff. And not only that, but they've been working throughout since March, trying to make this work for our members in lots of individual ways as well as collective ways, ways that you don't see, thousands of hours preparing for a lawsuit and many, many other things that you've heard about today. So thank you, everyone on the PSC staff, including what James didn't talk about, the administrative support staff. We couldn't do this job without you. So I look to all of you and I thank you. And I also want to remember that we came together about 10 demands that we were pushing, and all through the day, through the last 24 hours, we heard about those demands, and we heard that some progress has been made, but they give us an agenda for going forward. So I just want to end by thinking about one thing Andrea said, and several of the performances some of you might have seen late last night that George Sanchez put on of his dance students or other dance students, that they made, it was assignments that they made in lockdown as dancers. And so many of them used the confinement of lockdown and the lack of space as the center of their performance. They played with and danced with confinement. Instead of trying to pretend it wasn't there, the lockdown wasn't there, they used it and showed how it could become a new form itself. And I think a little bit that we've tried to do that with our 24-hour video, our 24-hour online event. Yes, we're separated from each other. We're in lockdown in a sense, but we can use the forms we have and expand them and use it to create new political forms, to find each other in new ways. Because I think a lot of us found each other yesterday. And what I discovered anyway is how much power we have. How much power we have. You look at those clips, you listen to those speakers and thinkers and writers and dancers and movers and political organizers, and you realize how much power we have as a union. And you also realize how much we need to do in this moment. As Nivedita said, why we're being targeted, because of the class and the race of the people we serve, and because of the intellectual work we do. I think we heard yesterday how high the stakes are, but we also saw that we do have power and more than we've realized. So what I want to do is call on all of us to keep using that power, expand that power, believe in that, and know that we have maybe more power than we've realized, and that if there was ever a moment to use it, this is the moment to use it. So let's go forward to the next weeks and months and semester and year using that power and building on the beauty and strength of what we saw today. Let's go on to save lives, save jobs, and save CUNY. Thank you all. Have a great semester. Thank you.